This is Coach Lee, and this is the #1 requested video by you of all time that I've ever received. Everyone wants to know about alternatives to the no contact rule. And I have been hesitant to give you alternatives or to talk about alternatives because the no contact rule is usually so much more superior to anything else that you can do. Even in situations where it seems like it would make sense to be in contact, because of the fact that no contact is so powerful, because it's attractive, because it allows the other person to reflect and to learn and to miss you, which is an extremely valuable thing. And one of the things that I talk to couples about when they're dating and things are going pretty well is take the occasional break from each other. And I don't mean that you say, we're going to take a break. I just mean that you have other activities so that you're not constantly around each other, which can allow you to anticipate being together. Maybe you anticipate more dinner that evening, or you anticipate a date that weekend more with the other person if you don't see them constantly. However, quantity of time spent together is important. You actually get closer. You just need to make sure to take the edge off some and allow some absence. And no contact can really feed on that, especially when the other person is doubting, because it's very likely that doubting will happen. Even in relationships that can make it forever, there's going to be some days of doubt. And so that's why no contact is just exceptionally powerful, and I have lots of videos on that. But this video is about alternatives to no contact. So I'm going to tell you some of the things that I have seen work that are not no contact. Take a second and click the subscribe button below so that you can be notified when I have more videos like this that help with relationships, mindfulness, attraction, marriage, and breakups. So click the subscribe button below and let's get going. Alternatives to no contact. Alternative #1 to the no contact rule. Reason it out. This is when there's been a breakup specifically on issues. You've probably heard me say that most breakups, the vast majority, are caused by a drop in attraction. And these are the breakups you don't see coming. You meet them for coffee, or you see them one day and they lay it down on you that they want to break up, that they don't think it's best for you two to be together, and you weren't expecting it. That's usually when no contact is by far the best thing to do, because emotional attraction has fallen. It's nosedived. So this is when you were not broken up with like that, but it was specifically about some issues. Either something was going on, you refused to change, or it got worse. It caused arguing and bickering, and this person is citing that as a reason, or citing multiple reasons. And so you know there's a specific reason and you know what to do about it. This is when you can try to reason it out with them. And I'm not just talking about right as the breakup is happening, because that usually happens anyway, and that's usually a good thing. They need to know at the start that you don't want the breakup. That's what actually gives no contact some of its power, is that they start to wonder maybe if you're going back on that, and maybe you actually are liking being away from them, or that you're at least open to the idea or strong enough to move on. But this is where you basically reach out and tell them this is what has happened to make the situation different. For example, I've spoken with several people whose parents are in the way of the relationship. Some people can handle this. Some people it's completely fine. Others, their parents are too involved and meddle. It's difficult to admit, especially when you love your parents, but sometimes making a change that is demonstrable of a correction to the situation will really be helpful. So for example, what if you moved out of your parents' house because they were a problem to the relationship or a hindrance, and it was specifically stated by the person who broke up with you? That would be proof that there's constructive change. It can be seen. It's not some subjective feeling inside, or I've grown as a person. You know, it's not something that can't really be quantified. Instead, it's something that they can see, that can be measured and observed. So that's an example of that. Another thing might be if you play too many video games, and I hear a lot of women particularly complaining that their boyfriends are constantly on a certain video game system, and that's all that they seem to want to do. And trust me, if you're not into video games and you're with someone who is, it can be really, really boring and frustrating because this person is only focused on this thing. And a lot of times with video games, it's very time consuming. So one thing might be, I got rid of my Xbox or whatever. That's pretty extreme. And you need to decide if you really want to do that. But it's one thing that can show them that you are serious about this if it's really a problem. If it's the occasional video game or a regular game with your friends and that kind of thing, then the other person should be supportive with what you enjoy. They don't have to enjoy it for it to be fine for you to enjoy it. So I'm not suggesting that you just completely bow to this person and make unnecessary changes or get rid of something you enjoy. But if it's something that's causing a problem, then a demonstrative step could be important. For example, if it's drug use, if you are getting rehab or working with a professional, something like that. So it's where there is a specific problem and you address it. Now, that can also be combined with some no contact because it does show strength and maturity if you can not try to force your way on the other person and demand that they come back, that kind of thing. So that's where a temporary time of no contact, 3 to 10 days, and I'll talk about that a little more in just a minute, but that's where you can even combine the two and you can have a 3 to 10 day no contact period and then kind of come back and say, look, I've made changes to the issue. I understand why you were frustrated with it. I understand why that was a problem and it's been taken care of, or at least I've made a big step toward that, and suggest that you two meet up for coffee just to chat about it or to catch up. Well, I hesitate to mention this because I don't want you to latch onto it just because you want to talk to them because it would feel good and you think, yes, that's what'll work best for me, when really you're just justifying it because it would feel good. So really try to separate that. Think about how you would feel long term, really, with getting this person back versus just getting that sugar rush, that sugar high of getting to talk to them and it feeling good before it's time. Because if your situation needs the no contact rule and you need a longer period of time so that they can stop taking you for granted, so that they can miss you and see your place in their life, fear that you might be moving on, and believe you're strong enough to move on. Those things are very important. So weigh what I'm saying very carefully to know if this is actually something you should do or just something you want to do. So 3 to 10 days. As I mentioned earlier, it can be when there's a specific change that needs to happen and that caused the breakup. So you can do the 3 to 10 days for that and then come back and say to them, this is what has happened. It's a demonstrable step. You can see it. And that has been effective before. The 3 to 10 day no contact can be if there's been a horrible argument, or if very mean things were said, you called them names, they called you names, there was a big fight, or if there was a misunderstanding, there were feelings, hurt, rejection, maybe sexually. You can probably figure out if your situation falls into some of that, and you just need a little cool off period where you two don't talk. And you're doing it as much for you as for them, but it does allow them to be away from you, to reflect on the situation, to feel the silence, to feel your absence, to miss you. So it's like a mini version of no contact when the person maybe broke up with you out of emotions because of something that happened in that specific event, like hurt feelings. And that's where, if you were in the wrong, and usually it takes 2 people, so you were at least partially in the wrong, you should apologize. And you can reach out and say, I've had time to reflect and think. I wanted you to know how sorry I am, how much I love you, and how much I want this to work. And I would love to take that day back, or that conversation back, or that fight back, because I said things that I didn't mean in the heat of the moment. And it's because you matter so much to me that you affect me a lot. And sometimes I lose control. And I'm going to be better about that, but I wanted you to know how sorry I was. And if it goes pretty well, a lot of times a soft answer or a soft reach out will result in a warm, soft message from them. And so hopefully they'll apologize, and suggesting a casual face-to-face, like saying, well, let's get coffee and catch up. Just something simple. Or, when can you get coffee so we can catch up? Oftentimes that can be a powerful way to reunite after an unfortunate interaction, a fight, an argument where it was emotional and there were hurt feelings. So the 3 to 10 day short version of no contact. There have been some times when people have done it when they've gotten the I think we should see other people or I think we should break up type of breakup announcement from the other person. Not what I recommend in that situation, but some people have used it and it has seemed to help them. But I've also seen people use it where it doesn't work and it resets no contact or it pushes this person away potentially permanently. So be very careful before you do it, and just remember, you can always keep waiting. You can always stay in no contact and wait for this other person to come to you. When you treat the situation as though the relationship is scarce or as though you are not in a position of power, you risk losing it the most. So avoid being desperate and needy and using that as fuel to break no contact. Normally, in most situations, the no contact rule, where you go 45 to 60 days with no contact before even thinking about reaching out to them, and that's when you feel like you have nothing left to lose, which after about 60 days, you probably don't. That's the only time I suggest breaking no contact, and I try to get people to go longer than that even if possible. But if you think your situation is a little bit different, the 3 to 10 day no contact and then reaching out might be helpful. But just remember this, most people who reach out to me or when I'm doing coaching calls will say that their situation is unique. Most people think their situation is unique. So if you're thinking that, try to find another reason. Try to find a legitimate, objective, quantifiable reason before reaching out, because you don't want to reach out too soon and to let them think that you're just waiting around on them and that there's nothing to be concerned about and that there's no need to miss you, that you couldn't move on. All those things are bad and will likely cost you your relationship, because even if your ex thinks they might want to get back together with you, they will have a reason to put it off because they think you'll just be waiting around. They might even start thinking that you'll contact them again, and so they can just wait on that. Lots of negatives that I've seen over 20 years and thousands of cases. I'm not just saying what I think sounds good. I don't BS you. I don't try to just make videos with catchy titles that people will watch or to give you false hope. I'm trying to be honest with you and keep reality at the forefront. A fifth alternative to the no contact rule: continuing a tradition. And this is one that I have suggested a few times when I do think that the situation could use a lift, that either no contact has happened for a little bit of time and it doesn't seem to be affecting them quite the way we wanted it to, or if I just really feel like this person wants to be with the other person, and maybe in a situation, for example, where someone says the reason they broke up with me is because I was not attentive, I didn't put them in a place of priority, I wasn't affectionate enough, I didn't treat the relationship with the importance it deserved. This can be something that can be helpful, and that is continuing a tradition. So one example was that this woman who was broken up with by her boyfriend used to always get him coffee on a certain day when he had a certain project to do, and she would bring it to him at this project. She would bring him this coffee that she had ordered from one of the coffee shops, and it was something that meant a lot to her because she wanted him to know that she was thinking about him, and it meant a lot to him, and they were used to it happening every Thursday or whatever day it was, and it was a neat little thing that they had. And so she had this tradition, and she asked me what I thought about her continuing that. And since continuing a tradition is actually an alternative to the no contact rule that can sometimes be just enough to cause the other person to at least want to keep interacting with you and want to try to work on the relationship, I suggested she do that, and she did, and he actually broke down crying, and they ended up spending some time together that night and got back together. Again, I know you want to reach at anything to continue contact, but just know that no contact is still extremely powerful. It's still the number one way I see people get their ex back. So don't think and don't fall for the illusion that contacting them is going to give you more power and control in the situation. It does not. It's very powerful, even if it doesn't feel like that to you, because you're actually not doing anything in your mind. You're allowing something. That's what you're doing, which is just as powerful as doing it. So remember, no contact is still the way to go, but if you just feel like you can't do it, like it's impossible, and you know you're going to crack, there's better ways to break it. And that's one of them, continuing a tradition. And that can also work in some of the situations that I've mentioned where there's been hurt feelings or that kind of thing. And it's important now, don't use it to where it looks like you're trying to get them back with it too much. It might look like that a little bit. But for example, if the coffee tradition was your story, I told her to show up and say what she normally would say, which is, how's your day going? And she reached the coffee out. She didn't say, will you please give me another chance, or cry, or be desperate or needy. She just said what she normally said, which was, how's your day going? And she reached the coffee out to him. And then he reached out to get it. And there was sort of this connection. And they both felt the familiarity, the strength, the connection of this thing that they had done for a very long time. And it was a special moment for them. So you could do that also if your situation is a little bit different, or if you just feel like you absolutely cannot do no contact and you're about to crack. That's a better way to crack than calling and trying to talk them into getting back together or saying, what's up? The number 6 alternative to no contact is a little bit of a risk taker. It's where, for those of you who, again, feel like you just can't do no contact, it's not going to happen because you're just going to break. Though I would encourage you to be stronger than that and to try. Here's a way that I have seen work that I suggested and that I mentioned in my emergency breakup kit, which you can get with the link in the description below. It's the result of 20 years in the relationship recovery service. It's a powerful guide to getting your ex back. The emergency breakup kit, and I also have the emergency marriage kit, which you can also click and get more information in the description below. So the emergency breakup kit and the emergency marriage kit. Take a look. And also hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified when I have more videos that are like this that are helpful to your situation. And that includes marriage, relationship dynamics, mindfulness, and breakups. So this way of breaking the no contact rule, or this alternative to the no contact rule, as I said, is risky. It's going to take a little bit of courage, a little bit of guts to pull off. But this is what you would do. If you were to see this person somewhere, you would introduce them to someone as your boyfriend or as your girlfriend. So let's say you see them from across the room. You would actually get this person. Usually it would be someone who's not a potential romantic interest. That's what it should be. And you would say, hey, come with me. I want to introduce you to someone. You walk over to your ex, and this needs to be when they are not with someone who you think is a romantic interest. So if they're dating someone else, I have other videos on that. Do not consider that for this situation. But if they're by themselves or they're just with some friends, you bring this person over to introduce them to your ex. And what you would do is, and this would need to be up close so that other people didn't hear the conversation, it's not a public announcement, but you would be up close and you would just say, this is my girlfriend, this is my boyfriend, and you would introduce them as such. Now, like I said, this is risky. You do this understanding that there's risk to this, but usually they will be a little bit polite, might give you a funny look, but they would say hi to the person. And then you could either walk away with this person you just introduced your ex to, or you have already pre-planned with this person that after you introduce them, that they will walk away and it will just be you and your ex. Usually then, your ex will say, why did you introduce me as your boyfriend or your girlfriend? Or they could be a little bit playful and go, so I'm your boyfriend, huh? Or so I'm your boyfriend, huh? Or they might be a little bit playful and say, so I'm your boyfriend, huh? That's actually a good thing, because you can play back with them and say, psst, yeah. Or you could say, it just sounded good. Something playful. But if they ask you seriously, why did you introduce me as your girlfriend? Or why did you introduce me as your boyfriend? You could say, I was correcting a mistake. Or you could say, because I know better. And try to be a little bit playful with it, a little bit lighthearted. And their reaction, because as I say in a lot of videos, they're not a math problem, it's all over the place. But if you're confident enough that you can be playful with them, or that you could even use it to generate conversation, if this person is interested in getting back together with you, then it can sort of be the foot in the door and it can be useful. You need to approach it, just like all of these, with confidence. You need to guide or lead them back into the relationship. Don't beg them. Don't cry. Don't be emotional if possible. That's when these things can work their best. It's important to think about the situation before you get into it. What could they say? What could I say? Have a plan. Remember, err on the side of playfulness and also see this as something constructive. So there you have it. Some alternatives to the no contact rule. Don't say I don't have any. Click the subscribe button below so that you can be notified when I have more videos. If you like this video, give it a like. Leave a comment if you want to suggest some other alternatives and see what I think about them. I'm able to respond to some of those. Visit myexbackcoach.com for free articles and more information on getting your ex back and on my emergency breakup kit and emergency marriage kit. This has been Coach Lee, and as always, thank you for watching.